So what is your name and what do you do?
So my name is Daniel Alvarez, and I am a filmmaker slash marketing strategist.
What does it take to run your own business?
It takes a lot of time management, a lot of organization as well. It comes with dealing with a lot of people and being very communicative with them, along with organizing the creative aspect, along with the actual process of filming. It takes a lot of planning to actually go out there and see what you actually need for certain sessions. Some places need to be uh, illuminated with some lights. Some have natural lighting, and then you can just work with that. So it all depends very much on the job that you need to do.
How do you get new clients as a business owner?
Right now, I'm currently using Meta ads as well as word of mouth, and kind of using my own social media as a way to continue showing my work through these platforms and letting people see the work that I can do, and hopefully get more clients to be able to see this work. And then little by little, I start to use a CRM system that actually starts to curate these new followers that I keep getting from the Meta ads. And from there on out, it's just a matter of like repeating the communication aspects to it.
What do you do that makes you stand out from others?
I think the thing that makes me stand out the most would be the visual aspects to it, and also the vibes. I feel as if it's something that I'm very keen on, which is making sure that all of the videos are connect with the music that I'm using. So whatever you're looking at kind of syncs up with the feeling of it and the actual sound that you're hearing and the music aspect to it. So I make sure that it is actually making somebody feel something at the end of the day, right? There's a lot of things that are to promote projects, and other things are to promote the emotion behind the projects. And I think that's the key thing that makes me stand out.
Lastly, how would you describe your life at the moment?
Exciting. It's very adventurous. To be honest, I am going through a process of finding different ways to play around. I can find myself working from the States as well as working from Mexico. And so that gives me the opportunity to kind of play around with different ways of different projects, different ways of playing with the projects, and different ways of actually getting the business done. So I think that's the most exciting part of the business right now.
What's one moment that changed your life?
Moment that changed my life, it really does fall on to the time when I left to Mexico. I was around 13 years old. I was a very shy kid when I was young, very closed off in the sense of not being able to socialize as much. And when I moved to Mexico, that's kind of where I thought that this was my second shot in life, in a sense, where I chose to become more extroverted and decided to actually go out there and start talking to people and be as social as possible. And that did a huge 180 degrees in regards to like my whole persona and how I kind of interact with people. And it gave me I guess, the opening to see that I could change in a matter of just instance. It didn't really matter much to being of who I was before, but who I choose to be now. And from that moment on, like, my life started to kind of roll into this idea of like, I can continue doing that regardless of who I am or who I used to be or what I've been doing for the past few years, right? Yeah. So that's kind of where now I kind of take that into account, and I keep applying it little by little, changing habits, adding new habits, and adding new ways of becoming who I would want to become.
It's like a free do-over.
Pretty much, yeah.
What's something you had to overcome?
To overcome? That's a curveball right there. The one thing I'd had to overcome the most would be that social aspect of actually conversing with people. Because ever since I did move to Mexico, actually, I didn't know Spanish. So I had to learn Spanish and learn my way to becoming more fluent in Spanish. With that situation, I also stopped practicing English. And thus, after a few years living in Mexico, when I did come back a few years ago, 5 years maybe, I had to relearn English because I left with a pretty much elementary level of English. And so with that came with me to me now and practicing that again and kind of getting at the kind of fluidity into speaking and finding new words and vocabulary. That becomes an actual problem here, because when I do have businesses with people, people expect you to be as, as fluent and as direct as possible. And sometimes that comes off a bit unexpected when you can't find the words to actually explain yourself properly. So I think that's the biggest situation I've had to overcome.
Was there ever a point when you wanted to quit your business that you're running right now?
Yes. Honestly, there's been a couple of times where I've had to consider maybe not going through with it. And I've actually stopped every here and then with taking some side jobs and working on other kind of industries. I've been in the food industry, I've been in the construction industry, and I've been back and forth with it becoming something of a habit to keep coming back. So I find myself kind of quitting sometimes, but I'm always working a little bit on the side. And then when I'm into something else, I find myself just running straight back to this business and seeing myself just not finding myself enjoying anything else than actually falling to these lines of the industry and doing filmmaking and doing creative stuff that I feel as if it nurtures the soul more than anything. So that's kind of why I keep falling back, and I consider it to be the reason why I haven't quit yet.
So it sounds like creating is your true passion then.
Right. Yeah. I feel as if that's something that it truly does nurture the soul. They say that happiness is not the opposite of depression. The opposite of depression is expression. And so with that comes the idea that you have to be creating as much as you're consuming, because when you do the opposite, you become a void that's never going to be filled. So when you do become this creative and creative person in general, then you start to actually become more of yourself, because you're pushing everything that you are out into the world. And with that comes, all of the traction as well. And you start to attract everything that is for you because of the fact that you're putting so much of yourself out there at the same time.
What has life taught you so far?
Oh my God, damn. So much, man. And I think there is so much that I have learned that I started writing because of that. I feel as if writing is one of the key aspects to human nature, in the sense that I believe that words are the most powerful thing that we have as humans, and that's the one key thing that separates us from any other thing in the world, is our possibility of creating words, and thus creating worlds with these words that we create. And so with that comes the power that we have in actually using words to manifest the life that we want, and to understand that we ourselves change the perspective in which we live by using words that coordinate with that type of lifestyle that we want and that we're trying to live. So if we find ourselves in a lifestyle that we don't enjoy, it's not a matter of the lifestyle that you have, but the words that you're using to keep you in that lifestyle. And when you start changing those words that you say to yourself, then you can actually start changing the lifestyle that you have based off those words.
What's a lesson that you took too long to learn?
I don't know if I want this to be out there, but I guess if we're going to be authentic, it took me too long to realize that weed is an actual addiction, and that it takes a lot of time to realize that it's not a physical addiction, it's a mental addiction. And it's always based off of the fact that we lose ourselves in the feeling of being able to not worry about problems, and we avoid it through consumption of other substances. And thus we find ourselves feeling that we're freeing ourselves by going against the system, but that is ultimately what the system wants. It's ultimately what our old habits want of us to become, to not face the problems that we're facing, and to find ourselves relieving that stress through smoking, through eating, through whatever addiction that you can have. I feel as if it comes a lot down to excuses that you put to continue feeding into this habit. And so people say, "Oh, I just smoke to sleep better." It doesn't. You sleep worse. You wake up less rested, because you're actually restoring everything that you should have in a healthy aspect if you weren't to be smoking. And the same thing happens when you have this bad habit of not being able to sleep. Then it's maybe because you're not fulfilling physical activities. You're not actually feeding yourself properly. There's a lot of things that go into that. And that you use this very misunderstood concept of weed to justify this other lacking of understanding of yourself. Then that's kind of where you find this clash of identity sometimes. And it took me too long to figure that out, and so I'm happy to be able to kind of be free of that addiction, I'd say.
I appreciate you being open
I
about that.
appreciate you.
What's something in your life that you're still trying to figure out?
The one thing that I keep trying to figure out is the lifestyle that I want, especially because I'm in between two worlds right now. I'm in between living here and living in Mexico. And so I'm trying to make a lifestyle that kind of fills that style that I already have right now. And also I want to be able to be creative and have a community with that. So I guess the hardest part is to be able to find that community that grows with this idea that I'm currently putting out there in the world, and letting myself find that it's okay to actually enjoy the life that you want, right? It's not necessarily what people expect you to have, but what you generally feel that fulfills you. And so with that comes me being able to find myself looking for this environment and looking for the community, and also finding myself being able to provide financially based off of that, because at the end of the day, we need to, support each other through, I guess, the system that we have. We can't escape capitalism that easily.
And I think that that's a good point. I think that's the biggest problem that people face is trying to figure out the life that they want, and not the life that other people want for them.
Right. Piggyback off of what you're saying, I feel as if it's also very important that people realize how sometimes that 8-hour work week that we've been, imposed on, not necessarily is the most healthiest and not necessarily is the one way to go through in life. Sometimes you can just work 6 hours a day or 4 hours a day if you're very effective, right? And so that is the key aspect as to why I continue growing and going into this business, because sometimes I can work for 4 hours on whatever I'm editing and I get all the work that I need to be done, right? And other times I can go for 8 or 10 hours filming and I don't feel tired at all, right? And I'm super excited to be doing that. And so there's a key difference between, doing things that you want and working extra hours, and then doing things that you actually enjoy and not having to do so much of it because you're being super effective at it,
What's something people pretend to understand but don't? Maybe about your business or the way you live?
So there are two aspects, right? I think the main aspect is a lot of people think they understand what photography is in regards to filming, because a lot of people think that it's just a matter of putting your camera down and just letting it grow and making it look nice. But when it comes into filmmaking and it comes into actually creating content, the position in which a camera is put and the way the lighting is made will communicate, and it tells a story the way you're putting a camera, the way you're filming stuff, and that itself is what leads into a different type of narrative visually and audibly. So with that being said, I feel as if that's something that a lot of people don't consider when it comes to actually marketing and making use of that, because there's so much things that comes into marketing as well. There's big brands that invest millions of dollars into marketing just so that they can be worldwide known. And small businesses don't see that as a necessity because they think word of mouth is all that they need, when they don't realize that the investment in marketing is an investment in themselves. And I feel that is very important. Same thing goes into the personal life, and when you're investing in yourself, it's never lost. And so we have to make sure that we invest in taking time to actually know ourselves. And I feel a lot of people don't realize that they don't know themselves. They say they know themselves, but they don't sit down and write and go through the emotions themselves. And so I feel that's one of the key things that a lot of people take for granted sometimes.
When was the last time you felt genuinely happy?
Genuinely happy. Oh God, you know what? It's funny you mentioned that, because it was here at this park. I was at that bench over there. I had just finished editing for the day. It was around 4 p.m. I left the coffee shop. I came to the park. It wasn't even hot. It was a nice warm chill, like the breeze was nice and cool. And I sat down on the bench, sat down and wrote, listened to music, and I laid down for a good minute. And I realized that I had everything I needed in my life. Like everything was perfect. I had just eaten. I had just worked. I had the opportunity to sit down, enjoy free time, enjoy the sun, enjoy nature, and just be free. And I think that is the most richest I've ever felt in my life.
Such a simple moment.
Right. It's ironic. Yeah, it's so simple, but it's fulfilling.
Yeah. What keeps you going?
I'd say my parents, my family, and the idea that with great power comes great responsibility. I love Spider-Man so much, and that quote kind of stuck with me so long, but it became a reality because I realized how important it is for us to really take into account the power that we do have in our lives, that we can change people's lives, we can change our own lives, and we can change the whole world just by being responsible enough to actually take that power into consideration and to realize how powerful we really are. Like, some people don't realize that we can change the world because they believe that they're not worth it. They believe that they're not capable of it. But they don't realize that if they weren't alive, if they weren't here, the world would not be the same. Our world would not be the same if just one person stopped being in it. And you can say whatever you want when it comes to different people in general, but life will be impacted by one singular person. And so if we realize how much power we have as an individual, then we have to take that into account and hold on to that responsibility as much as we can, and actually, carry our own weight in this world, and you know, hopefully carry a little bit more weight for other people at the same time.
Spider-Man quote. I like that.
Yeah, thank you.
What's the best advice for someone in their 20s still trying to figure out life?
I really think that the most important thing is to write. It's so psychologically helpful, but also it allows you to realize what's the words that you're choosing and you're saying to yourself. And sometimes those words aren't your own. Sometimes those words are from other people that have imposed these words on you. And so when you start to realize that these words are being repeated over and over again, you start to question either these words being real or if they're just words that you already have a habit of using. And when you do have the opportunity to actually go out and do something for yourself, try it. You know, live a little, go out and learn the experience, write the experience out, and then grow upon that, you know, and don't be afraid to take risks. At the end of the day, that's the biggest problem we have, to be afraid. Because at the end of the day, the biggest fear is the one that we create in our brain, in our head. And if we allow ourselves to actually go out there and see what's out there, then we'll see that it's not that bad. And it could be actually amazing out there.